Chupa. No,
Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another Sims info/thoughts video. So there's been a lot of talk about seasons lately, and what are being considered hints to it coming in the near future. This video is going to be focused solely on that. Pretty much ever since The Sims 4 has come out, people have been trying to find hints for seasons everywhere. And to make matters worse, well, seasons is just one of those things that can be tied to a lot of aspects of daily life, so that's another reason other than popularity that you see so-called hints to seasons being found by Simmers very often. And over the years, the Sim gurus have said again and again and again that they do not do hints, but as of lately, I've been starting to disagree with them because while I think there have been a lot of hints, so-called hints that have been blown way out of proportion, there's been some hints, especially with cats and dogs, and there's a couple of SimGuru posts on Reddit that I want to talk about as well that feel like make it a little too obvious. That it's just too hard to deny that these aren't hints or clues of some kind to seasons coming. I mean, I'm 99% sure that seasons is going to be coming to The Sims 4 eventually. Like, EA would be shooting themselves in the foot to not do it. It's probably the second most popular expansion for The Sims, the first being pets. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And with hints, what I generally consider to be a hint for anything is that the thing that you're hinting at is coming in the near future, not like 3 or 4 or 5 years in the future. So, like, for example, cool kitchen stuff. You could argue that whole pack was hinting at seasons because they included ice cream and a lot of clothes that arguably would fit really well as an outerwear category for winter. But over 2 years after that stuff pack's released, and we still don't have seasons, so I would consider that to not be a hint. And expecting seasons to come that early within the life cycle of a Sims game just doesn't seem that realistic. And just generally linking warm clothing to seasons is a bit of a reach because, well, that would mean the Sim groups would be very limited to just having light clothing in every pack until seasons comes out. And another example that really blew up after the Toddlers update came out was that there was this book that seemed to hint at seasons, as well as people finding icons that had snow and fall leaves in there. Plus, there is what's technically considered an outerwear category, but it's not what you're thinking it is. It's actually a sorting tag. It's like when you go through everyday or formal or whatever category, then there's also those sorting tags within them, like pants, skirts, sweaters, and stuff like that, and outerwear is one of those. So yeah, I guess if they bring the actual outerwear category back, they'll have to rename it to seasonal, or something along those lines. And SimGuru Drake debunked all of those as hints, and in this case I do agree with her because yeah, they are pretty small things, and especially with things like the snow and fall leaves icons in the game, they don't necessarily point to weather being in the game. They can just be stuff like speech bubbles. I remember people were saying similar things because there's a car icon in the game. So it was like, oh, cars are gonna be coming because of that. But in reality, that car icon is for the queue for when a sim is going to travel somewhere if you're doing it through clicking on the cell phone. And one more example was from when Get Together came out, how there's a dog icon that can appear on the DJ booth as a visual thing. And people thought, oh, that must mean that Pets is the next expansion pack. Well, that did not happen. It happened eventually, but City Living ended up becoming the next expansion pack after Get Together. So looking for hints in something as small as a game icon that's probably being used as a speech bubble, or a whim icon, or a queue icon, you're probably going to end up being disappointed. But I think at this point I've talked enough about what should not be considered hints. So now to get onto what I think should be considered hints. And those, for the most part, come straight from the developer's mouth, whether it's through some rather interesting tweets on Twitter and Reddit, or through leaks in the game code. For example, lines of code were found for cats and dogs hidden within game updates several months before the expansion pack was even announced. Even though those lines of codes don't 100% guarantee something's coming either, I think those are much more tangible and real clues. One interesting tweet that came up recently was from SimGuru PJ, where he responded to this tweet from Deligracy, where she was talking about how her Sims may have not died if there had been firemen in The Sims 4. And he says, who needs firemen if you've got... I've said too much. So, what is he saying too much about? What does that mean? Well, people have been speculating that what he was going to say was, who needs firemen if you have rain to put out the fire? Although with that kind of response, your mileage may vary because, well, if the fire is taking place inside, then the rain's not really going to do you any favors. It's only if the fire happens to happen outside, then the rain would definitely help. So, yeah, it might or might not be a hint to seasons, but if it's not rain, what else could it be? Something like lawn sprinklers or hoses that your Sims can use themselves? I'm not really sure. But now we're going to shift things over to Reddit, where SimGuru Daniels made a couple of interesting posts in the past. Because a year ago, he responded to one topic where it's called, do you think The Sims 4 will get pets and seasons? And then he says, I think so, but what do I know? Referencing just the fact that he works for Maxis and works on The Sims. And, well, half of that has come true now, so it's just a matter of time, I think, until seasons happens. But then, a few days ago, SimGuru Daniel made a response to another topic called, I can't help but think about how sad it will be when we have seasons and strays are left out in the rain and snow. SimGuru Daniel says to this, maybe they won't be? And this is probably the weirdest thing. Like, there's two different directions that you can go with this, because actually when I first read this, I thought, wait, is this a confirmation that seasons and weather are not coming to the game? Because why would he say maybe they won't be? So the other way you can look at it is that maybe you don't have to worry about strays being out in the rain and the snow, because when the rain and the snow comes down, then maybe the pets will run off and disappear. Kind of like when you see Sims leave and enter venues where they just kind of pop up on the sidewalk or they leave. And some people were telling me, oh, maybe it could be that the cats and dogs will be smart enough to seek shelter when rain or snow happens, and that would be really neat. I don't know if that would happen, but it would be really cool anyways. But yeah, wow, what a strange post. You can really just take it either way, that seasons is not coming, or that it is coming for sure, but I feel like there is a bit more evidence that they are coming rather than not. Because before I end this video, I do want to talk about a couple of things related to objects in cats and dogs that I feel like are hints to seasons. Even though I was talking earlier about how it's reaching a little bit to look at icons as evidence for hints, these two I think are just a little too obvious. So let's start off with the image on the left. So this is a new calendar that's being added as a decorative object with cats and dogs. And, well, I find it highly suspicious that there's exactly 4 color swatches, and each one can represent a season. They could have gone with almost any number of swatches, but they went with exactly 4, not 5 or 6 or 12. No, they went with exactly 4. I think, like, The Sims has been around for a long time, and the SimGurus are well aware that the Sims community looks very deeply into things, and I don't think that's going to change ever, so they must be smart enough to know that we would have taken this as a hint. The other thing that I show in that tweet are a couple of trees from Cats and Dogs where their leaves have noticeably different colors than just being green. And sure, not all trees have really green leaves, but I think this is just another one of those things where, like, when they were thinking of making these, they must have thought, yeah, like, the community is going to look at this and think, oh yeah, Seasons is going to be the next expansion pack. And one other Cats and Dogs related hint, I think, is that one of the sicknesses pets can get in relation to the vet clinic is called Winterfest fever. Like, I'll acknowledge the fact that you don't need weather to get sick, but they have winter in the title, like, come on. Really, really, Maxes. You must have thought of the community when you said that, because, yeah, that also seems just a bit too obvious. If Seasons is not the next expansion pack, then I really don't know what to say. Even though they've said many times before that they don't do hints, it almost does feel like they're leading us on a little bit. And now that Cats and Dogs are out of the way, Seasons is definitely the next in line to be the most popular request for an expansion pack. Plus, The Sims 4 has been out for over 3 years now, and the Seasons expansion packs do tend to come later. And my prediction for when The Sims 5 will release is in 2020 to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Sims franchise. So if that ends up being correct, then I think we'll have 2, maybe 3 expansions left if we're lucky. So I think one of them will be Seasons. Another may or may not be University. I think University could more easily be a game pack. But yeah, doesn't leave a lot of room left for what could be potential expansion packs if there's only that many left. So if we do end up having only until 2020 before The Sims 4 reaches the end of its life cycle, then I think it's time. I think it's time to stop stringing us along and give us what we want. Like, we got the Pets expansion, basically, even though we don't have small pets yet. So, yeah, I think we should get Seasons in the near future. I just hope that at least some of these hints do end up being correct in a sense, even though the Simgrews will realistically never confirm or deny these things. I just feel like if I were in charge of the Sims brand, I would have specific rules in place where you just can't do things like call some sickness Winterfest fever without Seasons being officially announced first. Because I know, like, yeah, people are going to jump to conclusions and assume that, oh yeah, X or Y expansion pack is next because of this or that. Inevitably, some things are going to be blown out of proportion, but at least for the things where it's a lot more difficult to argue against whether something is a hint or not, then I think a line should be drawn. In an ideal world, I'd love to see the Simgrews say that, yes, we do hint at future content, good luck finding which ones, so they would confirm that hints exist, but not specifically hint at what is a hint and what isn't so that they don't lose their jobs, but for all I know, they can't even say that either, so yeah, I guess that realistically is out of the question too, but gosh, I'd love for that to happen. And that wraps up another Sims info/thoughts video. So I know this one is a lot longer than usual, but I did want to give a more extended stance beyond 280 characters on Twitter, my opinions on the whole hint situation, especially how I feel like in recent times it's gotten a little bit out of control. So hopefully this helped out at least some of you in some way, but I felt like I just really needed to get these thoughts out there at some point, whether it was now or a year from now or 5 years from now. I think this is a video that just eventually needed to be done. While there are some things out there that really do appear to be hints, just try to not look into every little detail and overanalyze and look at it as a hint, or else you might just be setting yourself up for disappointment. But I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!